Okay, so BlizzCon has happened, and we got the next three expansions. And there is the What's Next panel where they go more into detail about, the next expansion that we're going to get, which is the War Within, like they wrote on screen here. And there's a lot of things coming to that patch or to the expansion. I'm calling it a patch because they're making, from what I understand, more frequent expansions, but like at a shorter time frame. So they're not going to be as big. They're not going to try and squeeze one big story into one expansion, but instead they're going to do a trilogy, where they put one story into three expansions, and that's how they're going to do things. So I keep calling it a patch because it feels a bit like a patch, but not really. I'm kind of excited to see what this is going to be. Whether this is going to be a cash thing, because people have to buy an expansion more frequently now so they can earn more money, or if this is going to be something that will actually benefit us as the players. Like, I just want to say, I don't mind having to buy an expansion once a year in order to get more content and more story. I would much rather that than having to pay a subscription for a long period of time without any new content, because that is just how the traditional expansion release schedule is. So I would much rather just pay for a more frequent expansion and get more content. And again, that's me. I don't have to worry too much about buying an expansion. So that's probably why that's my opinion. There's probably people sitting out there, just having a hard time just affording one expansion once in a while, like every 3 years. And of course, that would be an issue. But let's go take a look at what they said here and
Here's
just
our first presentation.
go into some of it.
World of Warcraft, what's next?
Yeah, so Thrall, he came out and said we're going to get these three expansions. And the first one is the War Within. And with that, we got a lot of new updates.
4 years have passed since the mortal races gathered together in Anaheim, California.
Just a side note here, I actually think they were pretty good at the at BlizzCon. They didn't seem like extremely corporate, and of course that's an illusion because they want to make the audience feel like they're one of you guys, like they don't want to be this big corporate thing at the expansion reveals. They want to see more down to earth because of everything that happened for the past couple of years. But I actually think they did pretty good. They seemed friendly. The main guy, the CEO, became emotional. That was kind of fun to see. But yeah.
BlizzCon thunder once
I think they did
again.
really good.
Let me hear the thunder! Yes! Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here with us today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World of Warcraft What's Next panel. My name is Taryn Gregory, and as you may have heard, thank you. As you may have heard from Chris during the opening ceremony,
so he is going to talk quite a bit about just introducing things.
And then next you'll hear from Maria Hamilton.
Let's get to the actual content here, because I do actually want to talk about the actual content.
One that knows our true
by the way, she looks awesome.
And will seek to test it against a new threat of terrible power, the Nerubians of Ashkahet.
I've always been an old God fan, so when it comes to these new zones,
Zalatath has conscripted the
I don't know what
Nerubian
just
queen
happened there.
Ansurek, having offered her people a new future, one in which they will rise from their isolation as a mighty kingdom once again.
I'm an old God fan when it comes to anything old God related, and I love that we're getting some of that in the next expansion here.
But instead a new mighty stronghold of the Nerubians as they once were. Deadly
Let's fast forward a little
survivors
bit. I want to get to the good stuff.
Time and again over thousands of years. Aims to
Here,
the might of heroes, and the importance
this sword that was stabbed into the planet. A lot of people were talking about whether or not they were just gonna, just ignore the sword, just have it not be a thing that happened. I love the fact that, and I don't know if this has anything to do with Chris Metzen returning, might not have been, but I love the fact that it's kind of like they sat down and they thought to themselves, okay, we have all this lore that we built up over the past many expansions. Some of it is good, some of it is really bad. Instead of just ignoring the bad stuff, how can we actually take the bad stuff and try to intertwine it into maybe a better story. Let's take the bad stuff like the sword in the planet and just kind of like try and see how we can spin that off in a much more down-to-earth direction, instead of it being about, always like inflating the balloon, amping up the story for every expansion, and all of a sudden, oh, the balloon is so big and all the players don't feel like it's grounded anymore. And so taking a story like the sword that was stabbed at something inside the planet, I really think that the way they introduced the War Within seems a lot more down to earth, a lot more relatable. We'll get to talk more about once we actually do get to see more about it. There we go. This is the part I want to get to.
Hello, BlizzCon. Wow, I am so excited to be here and delighted to represent our team and tell you about the
She's
places
always so
that
good
we
at
will
talking in these
explore
things.
and the cultures we will encounter in the War Within. I can't really see all of you out there. I know there's a lot of you, though, because I can hear you. And I hope to hear lots of oohs and ahs when you see some of this cool art I've got to show you. So let's get started. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
I have no idea what just happened
Okay.
there.
As Taryn mentioned earlier, we'll be called by the Radiant Song, dreamlike visions that come from the heart of the Azeroth. This summons is going to lead us to the subcontinent of Khaz-Algar, a place long forgotten. It's only through recent explorations in Uldaman that we've discovered a Watcher report concerning a contingent of Earthen that was sent to this place long, long ago to investigate a fissure in the sector. What exactly that means, we don't really know, but we can probably speculate. So first, let's talk about the Earthen. Ooh, there you go. There you go. All right, we have met Titan-forged Earthen before, of course, in Ulduar and other places. But
so the actual Earthen that we encounter inside the dungeons, like back in Classic, was it Classic or was it like, I don't know, Cataclysm or Northrend or whenever, like at some point, we went back to like these dungeons where we found out, oh, the Titans created the dwarves, and the dwarves originally came from these stone people. Like, so now we actually get these as an allied race, and the Horde side is getting them too. I was actually, the first time I saw this, I missed the point about whether or not the Horde was going to get access to these too. So that means that you can play as a dwarf on the Horde side. It's not a real, meat and flesh dwarf, but it is a dwarf nonetheless. So that is something you can play on the Horde side too. I don't know if I'm a big fan of the factions kind of like merging together into like this friendly thing. It's always been like the World of Warcraft. So Warcraft, it's about war. And I always like the faction conflict. I've never really been a big fan of, so we're in disagreement, but we're going to become good friends to kill this bigger evil. And then we're going to go back to being, hostile afterwards. Like I always just kind of like when it was the Horde versus the Alliance. But it is what it is. And I think after watching this 2 times previous to what I'm doing now, that they are doing the best they can with the direction, with the faction conflict just not being a thing anymore. So
this society of Earthen has been isolated within Khaz-Algar
I like these. I think they look really
a really
good.
long time and have developed their own manners and customs.
I love that the females are getting beards
Now,
too.
visually, these
It
Earthen are a
reminds
bit
me of Lord of
larger
the
in
Rings
stature,
when Aragorn
and they're
does the joke
noticeably
about the
blinged
dwarf
out.
beards.
They've got gems all over them, bedazzled, blinged out, that kind of thing, right? But philosophically, they are guided by the edicts of the Titans.
By the way,
a set of
eye colors. Like I'm a visual guy. I love taking my guy in the game to the barber and changing him frequently. I like farming transmogs. There'll be more about that because they're heavily changing transmogs in this game here. So customization options look incredible for these races. And I hate that because I'm probably going to be making a dwarf, like one of these earthen dwarves once they actually come out. I have a level 70 boost that I got because I bought the Epic Edition after watching the expansion reveal and everything, because it's super good. Like, we'll get to the really good stuff a little bit later because it's near the end. But this right here, I love the earthen. They look incredible. I've always been a big fan of like whenever you have these you know, underground dwarves that makes caves and these beautiful, you know, areas with like the pillars, and just like when you have Lord of the Rings, when they go down into, you know, where they, you know, find out that they're all dead and everything. So like it just looks really good. So the aesthetic of dwarves underground is something I'm a heavy fan of. There was some leaks talking about that this might be what the next expansion was about, and hey, guess what? It is. And a lot of people weren't happy about it, but I actually think that this is something up my alley. Like, this is something I'm a fan of. And when I heard it was dwarves underground and everyone else was kind of like, ooh, we hope it's not that, I was really happy about it, if that was the thing. I do also want to say, once we get to the underground zones, you'll get to see that they're not as dull and gloomy as underground zones have been in the past. So like in Dragonflight, we got the underground place too. And it just looks like, you know, it's lava and rocks and minerals, but you'll see underground zones in the next expansion are going to be a lot more, you know, with flowers and trees and stuff like that. So, and they, like they said, they tried to make the underground zones not look as underground. So it is underground, but it looks like we're in, you know, not underground, and you get to see why.
Codified orders, duties, and expectations that provide instructions for the core functions of their society. You know, Titans, order, all that, right? But the Titans have been absent for eons, and the Earthen are no longer united in their adherence to these edicts. They now exist as three groups that are estranged from each other. The Oathsworn, as their name suggests, still uphold the edicts faithfully and believe everyone else is doing it wrong. Their charge is guarding the Core Way, a Titan passageway that leads right to the core of Azeroth. They're primarily the city dwellers. They live conveniently near the object of their responsibility, that Core Way. Now, the Unbound, in contrast, have abandoned the edicts, and they are considered scandalously rebellious by the Oathsworn. Their original responsibility was providing the materials to keep the Titan installations supplied. And they're primarily rural. They're living in and around the quarries and the mines where natural resources can be acquired. They rarely interact with the city dwellers. They feel neglected and ignored because they have a different opinion on how they should live. Now, the machine speakers have strayed from the edicts in practice, but not with respect to their overall obligation to keep the Titan works functioning. They've had extremely limited contact with the surface dwellers, and they express
I think they're
no
going to be
little
my
disdain
favorite
for those who just don't understand the
of
great
these dwarves here,
machines. Their
because they live
homes are built
underground.
around vast industrial projects under the
They're
surface
kind of like the
that allow
Darkaion
them to
dwarves,
perform
just
their
not
functions in accordance
flesh.
with edicts, more or less. These different perspectives among the Earthen and their variable adherence to the Titan's edicts has weakened the society as originally structured. And that's not good, of course. But a much more serious problem is their steadily dwindling numbers. For reasons that I'm not going to get into here and now, New Earthen can't exist until we help them out by doing some things and unite the Earthen society once more. Happily, as a result of our actions, the Earthen will eventually be unlocked as an allied race. Yeah, like sweet, don't they? Yeah.
I love the fact that we're going to go ahead and help them reproduce, and that will be the story of how our player character is actually being created. So like they actually, you know, have a really, really good foundational story about why we can suddenly become these new dwarves here. I think that's really awesome. It's going to end up being like all the players are just dwarves. Like the alliance is just non-existent, or like the horde or non-existent helping out. It's just going to be the earthen dwarves just helping themselves out, because everyone is one of these. Look at the eye colors. I love the fact that you have the green eyes, you have the red eyes, you have the blue eyes. This is what I wanted for the Darkaion dwarves, because the Darkaion dwarves, they just have like fire beards and glowy, fiery eyes, and you can't turn it off. Like you can only transmog fire transmogs on those dwarves because of that. So getting something like this where there's like heavy transmog options is like incredible. And look at the female beard. I love that that you can do that. She looks like a gladiator, like one of those Roman soldiers. It looks pretty cool. And the female one with the huge beard up here, like she has the most majestic beard of all these dwarves here. I think that's funny. But yeah, they look really, really awesome. I love the gems on them, and you can probably customize them in all sorts of ways. I love the irony decorations that look very Nordic, like a Nordic Viking. So that is definitely going to be something I'm going to play. And by the way, I've been struggling a lot when it comes to Dragonflight, trying to figure out what to main. That is not going to be an issue in this expansion, and we'll get to why, because they are really just tearing down the game's bad foundation entirely and just saying, you know what is it that the player base wants? Let's just give everything to them. Like, that's what they did this expansion here. So I'm stoked about this expansion. It's not like the story overall, and we'll get to see more about that. It's not like it's super like, it's not mind-blowing. It's not gonna blow you away like when you see the Wrath of the Lich King cinematic, or Dragonflight, where it's like epic. It's not like completely inflated. And then you get into the expansion, and it's just like so much more like calm and not so epic as the expansion trailer. It's kind of like they're not trying to hype people up to like pre-purchase the expansion. They're just saying, you know what, let's dial things down, make things more down to earth, and let's just give you what you want. Let's just make this a core good game. Let's just do all the things that you as a player need in order to have a much better experience playing this game. And to me, as a person who loves making many characters and loves collecting transmogs, you'll get to see why I immediately pre-ordered the Epic Edition. Because when I heard this, I want to show Blizzard that they're going the right way, so I just bought the Epic Edition. Because I want to tell them, yes, please doing what you're doing. This is what we want. Which may sound super simpy, over Blizzard. This is my favorite game. I've played it for many years. I play it every day. And, even with the bad expansions, I have played them, but I've never, ever grinded out any of the systems. I have always been behind on everything, and I've always just kind of like tried to keep up. But because I keep making ults, I always fall behind. And they just completely said, you know what? Let's not have that be an issue anymore. So we'll get to see why.
These player earthen will replenish the culture's dwindling numbers and may join either the Horde or the Alliance. Yeah. It is, of course, player's choice which side you wish to ally with. But as you can see from a small sampling of combinations, there's some fantastic variations and customizations coming for the earthen models, including different gem incrustations, beards for all body types, rocky skin patterns, tones, and more. Now that golden mohawk with the braids and the fringe beard, that's quite the look. But I really like the beardless guy with the bushy blonde eyebrows.
She's talking about cool. This guy down here. I think he's the most boring one of them. I really love this guy up here, and I really love the gladiator woman and the woman with the beard up here. I think they look really awesome. I also like that you can do some of the more natural looks, because one of the things dwarves they lack is that you can make these really epic dwarves that looks, with big beards and all this. But if you just want a normal dwarf, you can't do it. And, just like a regular kind of like human-like beard, they give it to you. Like, it's right there. So that's really cool too. I love the Nordic hairstyle here. This reminds me of my wife when she puts back her hair. It's really awesome.
Anyway, all right, moving on. Another cool culture that players will encounter in the War Within is the Arathi. Yeah.
Notice the transmog.
Yeah, and you probably have questions, right? So
10
these
out
are
of 10.
descendants of the original Arathorian Empire, and they've arrived relatively...
Like, look at it. This is plate armor. This is mail. This is leather. And this is cloth. This is what you want if you play a crusader, or just in general, if you play something medieval that belongs in a fantasy universe. This is the transmog you want to use. Like, it looks so good. And of course, they always look really good in 2D, and then you actually see it on the models, and it looks a little bit different than what you thought. But The artwork here looks really good. Like the concept art looks medieval. It looks something that this is what I like when it comes to Transmog. I know a lot of people, they want lightning flashing all over the character, or something that looks super cartoony and flashy. I'm not into that at all. I like something that looks like it was out of like, I don't know, like Dark Souls, for example. And this looks Dark Souls. It looks grim. It looks medieval. It looks gloomy in the good way. In general, you'll get to see this expansion here is, it's like, Dragonflight is all happy and Disney-like, and we're all friends and holding hands, and I'm not into that. Like, I like the expansion when it comes to the systems, kind of, because they're going the right direction. The systems in Dragonflight are better than the system in all the past expansions that I've tried. But the artistic style has not been my thing in Dragonflight. I love the open world and it looks beautiful. But if you really want to hook me on an expansion, make it dark, gloomy, medieval. And that's what they did with this expansion here. So that is incredible.
Recently,
I love
through
this.
some somewhat mysterious circumstances, and they find themselves trapped.
It looks like a lot of the armor is going to be 3D-like. That's a really big plus for me, because I love 3D armor. Like, there's a lot of them where they just try to make it look 3D on them, but it's really just flat. That doesn't look good.
Here within Khazalgar. Mysterious mostly because I can't say anything more about it just yet because of spoilers, but it's not like spooky mysterious, it's the other kind. As a people, the Arathi are worshippers and wielders of holy fire. They are dedicated to bringing hope and light to the darkness. They're tough, resilient people, with every member of the society being an able combatant. Some few are further blessed with paladin-like abilities through their devotion to the light. Even their airships are powered by sacred flame.
Can we talk about the fact that we finally get paladins that aren't super, like, believers in, like, the traditional sense with... I don't know, of course we haven't seen the expansion yet, but I like that this is not the goody two-shoe, oh, let's help everyone, everything should be good kind of paladins. These are, like, vengeful paladins. It's kind of like the Scarlet Crusade, but not really, like, because they're literally evil. But these are just like badass paladins in the good sense. So I really like that about them.
The extent to which they're comfortable in battle is probably a good thing, because they have established a home away from home in an enormous cavern bordered by an endless underground sea, from which terrifying creatures emerge to rampage and create havoc. Not my idea of a cool place to hang out, but they're really, really tough. These watery monstrosities, though, are nothing compared to the threat from below. A constant swarm of Nerubians has been held back so far from invading the Arathi lands. The assault is unrelenting, the threat is dire, and the Arathi can't hold much longer. These bastions of light against the darkness are far from home and limited in number. Sure would be terrible if there was also division within the Arathi ranks. Just saying. That would be pretty rough, what with them being so outnumbered. We could probably help them. All right, speaking of the Nerubians,
I love how
we'll
she wanted
their
people
last
to
kingdom
react
deep
there,
within
but no one did.
These ancient
There's like
survivors of the
3
Black
guys in the
Empire
back
who
saying
rejected
something.
their former masters have developed their own culture here in the deep darkness. As Taryn mentioned earlier, Xalatath has made a bargain with the Nerubian queen
Those
Ansarek,
look
who seeks
amazing.
a new
If
future
those
and
could become
renewed
player
glory for her
characters, I would
people.
play it.
The Nerubians are extremely capable and devious adversaries who have been honing their skills with their constant assault on the Arathi.
Like, there would be
But
literal
domination
old god
hasn't come fast
creatures
enough for
to
the
play.
Queen's taste,
I
as
would
the Arathi
love
has
that.
managed
That
to
would just
hold against
be
this
like
onslaught.
the best thing ever.
So this deal with the Harbinger has included some assistance for her troops. Through some dark alchemical process, Xalatath has provided the knowledge required to evolve chosen Nerubians into...
I think Xalatath, isn't that the woman who was trapped inside the blade in Legion with the Shadow Priest artifact artifact weapon? I think she was.
Paragons of their race, enhancing their viciousness. And Queen Ansarek has embraced these modifications with enthusiasm and eagerly offered her army to achieve the Harbinger's schemes. It appears to be a win-win situation. But not all Nerubians share their sovereign's enthusiasm for change and her embrace of Xalatath. Shadowy figures with far too many limbs maneuver against the Harbinger's plans in opposition to the Queen's desire. As you might expect, any foray into this Nerubian kingdom introduces us to a variety of citizens, including some forms we've never encountered before.
By the way, when she shows... Sorry, I think I just hit the desk there. When she shows this picture, they don't actually show it full screen on the live stream here. So it's like, okay, how does that look like?
Here's a layout of some of the Nerubian...
Those are the really cool models there that I was... Oh, they're big! Look at that. That's the human characters. It goes to their navels. Like it's like in the middle of the stomach. I thought it was going to be smaller than that.
Models that are completed and also some that are in progress, as well as scale reference for...
I've never
goblins
played a
and
current
humans, so you
expansion
just
with
get a
these
sense of
guys,
size.
but I loved them when I played
In
Warcraft
addition to
3.
the Nerubian citizens, there are also domesticated insects who serve the kingdom as beasts of burden and pets. The team is hard at work building out the full range of carapaces, carapae, I don't know, whichever, skittering legs, grabby arms, piercing spiky bits, and creepy eyes for you to enjoy, I guess. All right, let's talk about our zones.
Another joke that people didn't
The
laugh
surface
at.
of Khazalgar is our first zone, called the Isle of Dorn.
Look at this. So a couple of things I want to say about this is this looks very Dragonflight. And for some reason, I think a lot of people's brains are going to see this and think, oh no, Dragonflight was boring. You know, the story wasn't really catching me. It was all happy and Disney. Are we going to get into another expansion like that? Because we want something a little bit more serious in its tone and something a little bit more, I don't know, like down to earth, not all about dragons and stuff. Like just something relatable, right? But if you look at this is like a dwarf city. This is dwarf houses. This is like Loch Modan or something. Like this is what we're getting. We're getting something that reminds us of the old world and an area that people love to play in. At least I think so. I didn't play Classic back when it came out. So, but it looks Loch Modan. It looks dwarvish. It looks kind of like the Hobbit, you know, like the Shire. And I don't know. This looks incredible, I think.
This is the home of the Earth.
Look at this. We have a big keg on there. This is an inn, clearly. I don't know. I just really like the dwarven aesthetic. And I think that the reason Dragonflight didn't really catch me in the same way was because of, I don't know, just the overall happiness of the theme and the aura of that expansion. I don't know, but this seems a lot more Warcraft, you know. So seeing, you know, the landscape, I think the landscape is beautiful. I just didn't really think that the theme that they brought into Dragonflight was quite catchy to me. Bringing dwarves into it instead, much better for me. So
dwellers, as well as other native species of creatures. The fertile soil, flowering plant life, and generous waterways provide nourishment
imagine
for
the
animals in
roleplay
this untouched
realms
paradise.
in Warcraft.
An important
They're gonna have
facet
fun
of
here.
earthen society is Cinderbrew mead. This volatile substance is manufactured from molten honey produced by enormous fiery bees. Their home groves are a remarkable sight as the
Look,
hearts
it's
of
our
the trees
mounts from
themselves
the Epic
glow with
Edition.
lava-like fluid. Harvesting is always an exciting time as the ferocious creatures are understandably protective of their hives. Now the roosts at Storm Watch are wreathed with lightning and fierce winds. These wild elemental rooks may choose to serve a member of the Oathsworn, who if so blessed becomes a Storm Rider, one of the guardian warriors of the earthen people. The Unbound deal with hostile
Wait, so I
creatures
got
from
early
time to
access? I didn't
time,
get
But for
exclusive?
the most part, the existence is fairly relatively peaceful, fairly sort of peaceful. They're
You get the mount when you buy the Epic Edition. That's what I mean. And it has all the dragon riding customization options. So when you go to the barber, it has everything unlocked. It's super awesome. But like if you unlock the Earthen when you get the expansion and then you get the mount automatically, then did I just then get early access to it or what happens? Or maybe I got one with like exclusive customization options from like the Dragonflight vendor and stuff like that. Who knows? We'll see.
comfortable homes are often situated
Look
near
at
places
how
where they-
dark and gloomy it is. Like the vibe it's not all rainbow and sunshines. Look at this. You have like the sun shining in from up here, lighting up a small area of the place, and other than that, it's like dark and it's fantasy and it's not all happiness, and I love it.
They once labored as adherents to
I
the
love that you
edicts.
see the sun come in.
Those sites are now in disrepair, and in some cases, the lair of other creatures. Of course, the Isle of Dorn boasts a great walled city where the Oathsworn live and serve the edicts of the Titans. The city of Dornagal is the location of many important civic buildings, markets, traders, and crafters. And it's here that a traveler will find the expected amenities of a capital city, as well as the Titan Causeway, the defense of which is the Oathsworn's primary charge.
Okay, so I didn't actually see that the first 2 times I saw this. That this is going to be the main capital. That's like a pretty important thing to miss out on, like the first 2 times watching this. But so this awesome area is going to be the main hub, basically, of this place, which I'm totally okay with because it looks really good. So yeah.
Now, beneath the surface of the Isle of Dorn
go.
lies our second zone, the Ringing Deeps.
Now, so this reminds at least me a lot of the underground zone in what we just got with the, I forgot what the name is, the underground zone in Dragonflight. But you'll get to see, like, first of all, you can start to see there's like plant life going on under here. And you'll get to see there's even more plant life, and you'll get to see that the ceiling doesn't look as claustrophobic the more we get to see. As the name
suggests, it is here that the earth and
I love the fact that while it is an underground zone, it looks recognizable because it looks dwarvish. Okay, that is a big aesthetic difference for me from the underground zones that we've gotten so far in Warcraft and this zone here, because it looks dwarvish.
Are engaged in their work in accordance with the edicts. In these
I'm going to be walking around just
looking.
looking.
Cavernous space are huge, complicated machines.
Look at this. You have the sun coming in. It's not all, I know I keep saying dark and gloomy, but an underground zone should not be all dark and gloomy. That should actually have like, just like areas where there's a lot of nurturing coming in, like sun and waterfalls and plants and stuff. Like this looks like an underground paradise.
Lava-heated foundries and forges and waterworks, both to cool and to power huge machinery. Maintaining these Titan mechanisms and keeping everything running is both the responsibility and the passion of the machine speakers. The Earth has shifted too in places, revealing openings to the sky above to the Isle of Dorn. These cenotes bring light and water into areas once shrouded in darkness.
And of course, we have the kobolds.
Abundant greenery, flowers, and creatures that do not
we have
typically
big
dwell in
kobolds.
caverns may be found in these idyllic spots. It was really important to us as developers that we delivered the fantasy of the hard-working industry, but still had some break-up areas of natural beauty that don't feel like dark, constrained tunnels.
Yeah.
Now, as the machine speaker population has dropped, they've had increasing difficulties with kobold incursions. And indeed, the kobolds have taken over the mines, the work areas. They've even built a city of their own. Unexpectedly, the kobolds are actually becoming a force to be...
It so much looks like the Hobbit when they're inside the big holes of the inside the Lonely Mountain. It looks incredible.
Reckoned with under the aggressive actions of their leader.
Look at the pillars.
The Candle King.
This is where they get chased out in the Lord of the Rings after Pippin he messes up. Is it Pippin or Merry? I always get those like swapped around. It is Pippin, right? Is it Merry? I don't know. Like the guy that always messes up, drops the guy into the well. When they run out from there and they run into the halls, and the big guy, from the underground, he comes up, and like the big flamey guy, he attacks them. It looks like that. I sound like I don't know anything about Lord of the Rings right now. I swear I know the names of them. It's just like a brain fart right now because I'm excited about this right here.
You knew it had to be a candle. No take candle.
Yeah, so the boss is going to be a candle guy.
With the passage of time, the Earthen have diminished both in number and in the knowledge required to perform the various routines to tune and repair the processes. The old ways have been forgotten, and new creative methods must be employed if the edicts are to be obeyed. So they're kind of making it up as they go along. From the ringing deeps, we descend further into Khazalgar to reach Hollowfall, a vast hollow area in the earth, bordered by an endless underground sea. This tenuous foothold under the bright light of an enormous crystal has allowed...
How awesome is that? This is an underground zone, by the way, but it looks like above ground because they have a huge crystal shoved into the ceiling that lights up the area. I don't know. Okay, it looks incredible, and the artwork down here is especially a favorite of mine.
Allowed the Arathi to survive, using their airships to travel to high plateaus.
Look at this. This is Borealis.
Light towers,
I love Borealis
villages,
aesthetics, by the way.
And even a priory.
There's like a church for like the paladins and stuff. Like it's medieval, and I love the medieval aesthetic.
In their capital of Merildar, these trapped people strive to keep hope alive and spread the light, while engaged in a near constant battle with the Nerubians at their borders. The open spaces, the bright light, and the greenery are intended to feel as though we're on the surface, somehow, rather than in this sort of strange hollow within Azeroth. The crystal provides brilliant light, warmth, and growth for vegetation. You may notice that all the blooming plants have opened their blossoms toward the light and seem to be reaching in that direction whenever they're in Hollowfall. Unfortunately, the crystal sun has been changing in recent years.
Ooh.
Where once the light was steady and reliable, it now fades
win.
without warning, plunging the Arathi into darkness, save where they have built light towers and maintain their holy flame beacons.
Just on like a personal note here, I hope that the crystal will change in color during events throughout as time goes in this expansion here. I really love how it looks like when the crystal is light and everything looks like Borealis, and it looks like a hub that you could actually be in. So like it looks really good. As soon as it turns dark and everything becomes evil, to me it just kind of fades into becoming another zone with a lot of monsters in it. And I don't know, for some reason that feels a little bit more like Shadowlands-y type feel to it, which is not really something I'm very happy about. I like the fact that we have areas where there's just like a friendly NPCs, and then there's other areas where we have monsters, and it's like when the crystal becomes dark, the entire area just becomes evil, and I don't like that in my head.
In the absence of this light, the dangerous Kobis and other fierce creatures emerge from the sea to rampage. As the Arathi are barely holding back the Nerubians, these unpredictable episodes are incredibly demoralizing and deadly. Happily,
like, look at the artwork, it looks so good.
The light has always returned to the crystal, so far. And at the deepest descent in the war within, we reach the zone of Azj-Kahet. That almost rhymes. Anyway, the Nerubian city of Threads has been built on the ruins of itself, over and over and over again. As areas decay and crumble, a new district is built upon its ruins, and as a result, the city climbs ever higher. Those Nerubians favored by the queen, or possessing enormous wealth, or both, command the greatest views and live in the highest places over these swarming masses of the many districts. The Burrows is the home of the scavengers, the forgotten, deep in the decay and the filth. The Umbral Bazaar is
I love how we get like this high society. It's kind of like Revendreth in Shadowlands, which was actually something like I kind of like the society build-up in Revendreth in Shadowlands, even though I didn't like the way blown out of proportion story. I kind of like the society aspect, you know, with the poor people being mistreated and the rich people being dominant, and, you know, like this evil kind of like sub-society that just like looks down on everyone else. Like there's a lot of really good story there. And I love that they're kind of like passing that on to these guys.
Trading hub of fine silks, fascinating alchemical discoveries, and other exotic and hard-to-find goods. The Skanes are the home of the lore keepers and scholars who toil to maintain the history of their people and research myths and legends of Azeroth. There are
look at
many
that.
other
I missed
districts
that.
and less than savory neighborhoods, both well-known and secret, that the careful adventurer could discover.
I like that there's such a variety in environments. Like, that's important in a game like this, because Dragonflight has too much of the same thing. Like, we have the open world, which is very Disney, and everyone's happy, and, you know, there's not really anything serious going on. Then you have the underground area, which all looks the same. Like, it's like you have two areas in Dragonflight spread out throughout many zones. So even though the zones have like slight differences, they look very similar. Like, aesthetically, you don't feel like you're really going into like different areas. This right here looks like different areas, which I really like.
Should they risk life and limb to do so. But the key to such exploration is
This is
fitting
so
in among
old
the
godlike.
Nerubians and being accepted. An enterprise both best accomplished through skill in the use of pheromones and considerable bravery. The zone of Aj-Kahet features areas of spectacular dark beauty that are inhabited by these creatures that have found a way to live among the Nerubians without being deemed a threat, found to
look
be
at that.
particularly tasty to consume, or just too much fun to torment. The mobilization of forces to assault the Arathi while also providing military might to achieve Xalatath's schemes has stirred up all sorts of inhabitants of the darkness. And deep within the city itself, the Nerubians are gathering an odd substance, the black blood of the old gods, for some unknown purpose. But I'm sure that's fine. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about our zone flow. As I mentioned, awesome, huh?
That's the Epic Edition Dragon Mount,
We
by the
travel
way.
from the Isle of Dorn
Look at that.
into the Ringing Deeps, into Hollowfall, and then into Aj-Kahet. In the War Within, all of our zones are connected all together using the airlock technology that we developed for Zaralek
I
Cavern,
love the build-up of the
allowing
zone.
for this seamless
Look at the
descent from the
cathedral
Isle of
at the top of the
Dorn
hill,
all the way to
facing the
Aj-Kahet.
big
That was video
gem.
I just captured last week of the transition between the Ringing Deeps and Hollowfall. As you can see, we built for dynamic flight, and we were able to flow directly between the zones without the load screen.
I feel like also Dragonflight is a big open area where there isn't a lot of, like, there's up and down going on, but it's more like you have this big flat area, and then there's like mountains from time to time, and you have to like get up in the mountain. Whereas this actually looks like they took and you know, from the experience of Dragonflight said, you know what, people love Dragonflying. Let's go ahead and make everything super, like, you know, with different levels of the zones, and actually embrace Dragonflying from getting to like different areas. And it looks so good.
There is some seriously amazing swoopy goodness to be had moving across these zones and through these spaces. It feels so cool to burst out of a really tight area and into just a huge drop like that. It's so exhilarating. Now, this blobby map that I've got up here was an early attempt during development of our zone flow to try to figure out how we would stack these zones together and achieve the relationship between their geography and geometry that made sense and felt great to traverse. We ended up with something slightly different than this, but this is pretty representative to explain what the world builders were thinking about when they planned these spaces out. It was really important to our design that while 3 of the 4 zones are technically underground, they didn't feel that way, and that they were distinctly different from one another. We pursued that goal by introducing the natural cenotes in the Ringing Deeps and leaning into the fantasy of the classic underground foundry and industrial workspaces. So even in the zone that felt the tightest, there's places that look as though they're actually on the surface. And within Hollowfall, we created a massive hollow space in a cavern so vast it feels like an exterior, with a huge artificial sun in the form of a gigantic crystal. And in Aj-Kahet, we leaned hard into traditional Nerubian architecture with hanging nests and huge palaces built all over a decaying city that just falls away into the depths. And that is the last bit of eye candy I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this peek at what we've got in development.
Yeah, it looks amazing. And that's not just expansion hype talking, by the way. I know a lot of people, they have
So now it's time for me to introduce you to Morgan Day.
a tendency
He's
to
going
like
give you
get
lots of
hyped about
information
expansions and just
about
like see,
dungeons,
like the
raids,
starry
and
eyes,
systems.
just like, oh my
Enjoy.
god,
Thanks
everything is
very
so
much.
awesome.
Bye.
And then the expansion comes out, and then it's not new and exciting anymore. And then, oh, okay, so this wasn't as awesome as like the reveal, Yeah.
Hello, BlizzCon.
Oh, you're gonna love this part.
My name is Morgan Day, and I'm here to talk to you about some of the upcoming content, features, and systems in The War Within. I'm sure I'll also make some funny faces that I'll regret later in thumbnails, but whatever.
I like
First up,
this
let's
guy.
talk
He's
about
funny.
dungeons. There will be 8 new dungeons coming in The
I
War
have
Within.
no idea what just
4
happened
during
there.
level up, 1 in each of the 4 zones that Maria just walked us through, as well as 4 at max level.
My hair's
There's
like
a lot of really cool stuff
trying to get it
happening in
under
these
control.
dungeons. For instance, we have like a kobold dungeon where you'll meet that Candle King, where there's like a
There we
light
go.
mechanic that takes place. You have to kind of keep it going to light your way. There's a
8
dragon riding
dungeons,
dungeon,
by
of
the way.
course. But also, one of my favorites is the Cinderbrew Meadery that Maria just talked us through.
I don't know
So
if that's
this
typical.
is a dungeon that takes
I don't
place
do
on our
dungeons.
first
I'm a
zone,
PvP
the Isle
guy.
of Dorn, which is where you'll experience
Open world
all
and
of our
PvP, that's
earthen
like my
buddies,
main thing.
And this is the place where they make that
I know they have a lot of
Cinderbrew mead
dungeons
that she
in
was talking
Dragonflight.
about.
I just-
they're taking all that honey
I don't
that
think
they
I've
gather
tried
from
all of
throughout
them.
the zone to make the mead, to do all kinds of fun and/or nefarious things with. Although I do have to say,
Look at
I
the
feel like
dwarf. He looks incredible. With the crystal and like, look at the hood. With the runes on it and everything. It looks so good.
they're a little bit behind the times. I feel like all the
Oh,
kids
this
are
is where
drinking
they brew
that, hard
the,
seltzer or something these days.
The
but whatever.
alcohol.
They're old school. I get it.
Oh, he's talking about it right
Next
now.
up, our raid, the Nerubar Palace. So this is an 8-boss raid that will take place in the zone of Aj Kahet. And this is really the culmination of all of those machinations we keep hearing about that we see play out between the Nerubian Empire, their queen, and her collaboration with Xalatath. So for this next one, we don't normally show things this early, but I thought it'd be cool to share. On the left there, you can kind of see the top-down view of the raid, and on the right, it's more of like a side cutout. So we like to work on all of our dungeons
I'm
and
not
raids
much of a
when they
raider
still
myself
look like this,
either.
as it's much
Like
easier
dungeons
to
and raids is
iterate,
not really
while we're in 2D
like, I'll
than
do
it is to kind of
LFR,
change the zones around
but
once we're in the game and it's all blocked
that's pretty
out.
much it.
So to step us through the raid really quickly, after barging through the front door, you'll very quickly fall and/or get knocked into one of those giant pits of that black blood of the old god that you'll hear much more about in Aj Kahet. And then you'll battle your way through the harvest pits, and then finally traverse your way back up through the stalactite wing, which is not lame,
Like I said,
promise,
there's a
until you
raid.
finally
It's not really my
comes up with
big
for that.
thing, so
Next up, let's talk about systems.
this is the good stuff. Like, this is really good stuff.
So I want to walk you through some of our features and systems at a really high
Specifically,
level. But
this is what
first, I
made
wanna
me
talk about some
pre-order
of the
the Epic
philosophies
Edition.
that are really guiding us to add these into the War Within. So first and foremost, we really want to continue to extend the philosophies of Dragonflight into the War Within. And really, when we talk about that, there's 3 main pillars that I want to touch on. First, we really want to make sure that we're focusing on evergreen features. We want to make sure that we're making World of Warcraft better forever and not focusing on things that we know we're going to have to leave behind as we move into future expansions.
So they're gonna build upon the existing stuff and not take it away from us every expansion. That's a good
Next,
thing.
we want to make sure that there's something for everyone. So whether you're a hardcore raider, a PvPer, a collector, or apparently like Holly, you just love to play tons of alts and run around the world exploring things.
That's me.
We want to make sure that there's
Pretty
something
much.
in
When I don't
War
do
Within
PvP,
that you can
that's
really
me.
geek out over and that resonates with you. And finally, we want to make sure that we're continuing to build on our philosophy and build on our systems and content with people who play multiple characters in mind.
That right there, just wait for it. It is so good. I'm an alcoholic. I create many characters. And I've always felt like whenever I created a new character that I had to restart and start all over again. Even Dragonflight didn't solve that. They had, faster catch-up systems. I never used that because I just gave up. I make so many characters. I swap mains constantly. I can't stick to something. And it's just like the idea that you have to stick to one character is something I hate a lot. And if there's one thing I actually really like about Final Fantasy, it's the fact that when you have one character, you can play all the classes. You don't need to have multiple characters to play different types of content. So if you want to play a priest, you can play a priest. If you want to play a warrior, you just swap into a warrior. But when it comes to the World of Warcraft, you reset everything in order to play from a priest to a warrior. You can't just swap. And I don't get anything done. Like all the reputations in Dragonflight, I don't have anything even halfway filled out because I keep swapping. And I've just given up. I'm not even going to try to fill out my reputation bars because I know for a fact when I started Dragonflight that I was going to swap to another character and everything I progressed would just be thrown out the window. And they're going to fix that. So alcoholics like me are going to be super happy about this expansion here.
We want to make sure. We want to make sure that we're building all of our systems to really respect the time of the player behind the keyboard and not focusing so much on the accomplishments of that individual character.
Awesome.
So let's talk about delves. Delves are a new feature that will be integrated into the outdoor world experience, where the fantasy of these is actually that you'll be joining the Dragonscale expedition in their search for lost treasures all across Kazalgar. So delves are an evergreen feature that is really integrated into that outdoor world experience. We want delves to be a new pillar of endgame content for those outdoor world explorers. We really view this as something like when we added world quests back in Legion, where they are going to be really integrated and transformative into that outdoor world, especially that endgame loop. So one of the main reasons I'm stoked about delves is that these will provide an opportunity for us to give seasonal content and rewards to those outdoor world explorers. So that means things like rewards that you're used to, like mounts, achievements, titles, but we'll also be adding a outdoor row to the Great Vault with War Within.
Fantastic. That is
so that all
exactly
of you outdoor
what I
world
wanted.
explorers will be able to share in the joy of rushing to the Great Vault every week to collect your loot.
There are just some people that don't like to do dungeons and raids, and people like me, I love doing PvP, but I don't push rated content in PvP. The only stuff that I really push is open world content. And even then, like I said, I keep swapping characters constantly. So even the open world content, to me, is not really getting filled out. I'm not getting anything accomplished. I'm not getting any reputation filled out or anything because I keep swapping characters. And giving us rewards is just one step closer to something really amazing because we'll get to even better stuff now.
And there will also be 13 unique delves that we'll be launching War Within with. And delves will scale from 1 to 5 players.
Meaning that I can play with my wife without having to invite 3 other people in order to do content in the World of Warcraft. I can just go in, be X-Intel players up until 5, and just do content and actually work towards progress to the Vault near the end of the week. So like this right here is super good. This is going to make it more solo friendly. It is going to make it more just for people who doesn't like playing with random players, but just have like maybe 1 or maybe 2 people they like to play with, can do content now and actually get stuff done without having to do dungeons or raids or PvP in order to get to the Vault. This is amazing.
And be role agnostic. So that means if you want to play a delve solo, that's totally cool. If you want to go with you and your partner, that works
Delves
as well.
gotta
Or you can bring
become
your
a
whole
big
dungeon
thing.
group
It has to-
and
it has
the
to
delve
be
will
good.
scale based on your group size and your roles.
I love the audience is super happy and excited about
And I would
everything
be
this guy's
remiss
saying.
if I didn't mention one of my favorite features of delves, which I think Maria alluded to earlier, which is that there will be an NPC companion joining you on all of your adventures. So for season 1,
This I
that'll
don't
be
really
Bran
care about,
Bronzebeard,
but
as you can see.
I guess it's okay. Bran has, like, the
And
only
Bran will be
relationship I have
tagging
to
along
him
with
is
you on
Wrath
all of your
of the Lich
delve
King
adventures,
expansions.
and will totally never, not even once, aggro a pack of monsters that you didn't want him to. And I don't have my fingers crossed behind my back right now. So Bran will have a custom. Brand will have a customizable talents and mechanics and abilities that you'll be able to kind of load out to suit your playstyle and needs.
People are really loud in the
maybe you need a
audience.
little bit of extra healing.
But in a good
well,
way.
you can load Brand out to provide that for you. And finally, you wouldn't be exploring with the Dragonscale Expedition if at the end of every delve there wasn't this massive treasure trove that we need Brand to open for us, which hopefully brought a couple of keys to open some of the chests in there. But before Brand can open that vault for you, you'll need to maybe defeat a boss, maybe you'll solve a couple puzzles, something like that, and then Brand will be able to open that vault door for you.
This is a better version of Torgas, basically.
Next up, let's talk about warbands. It's happening! So warbands are a system that we're introducing that will really be the representation of all of your characters across your Battle.net account. Warbands are an opportunity for us to create a platform where you can share your achievements, resources, and all that other good stuff across all of those characters. So the goal of this system is really to be that
He said resources as well. So, like, basically, he'll explain more into it.
representation of the philosophy shift that I mentioned earlier about really respecting the time of the player behind the keyboards and not those individual characters. There's actually a ton of additions and modifications. We've talked about a few here. There's no like singular UI screen that says warbands. It's more of like all these modifications and updates and features are like kind of wearing a big coat that says warbands on the back of it. It's how I kind of keep it straight in my head. But just to talk about a couple of those cool features, we'll actually be revisiting the transmog rules of how you acquire those appearances in the War Within. So for all of you who have...
This is a big win.
So that means all of you who have probably had to run 4 characters through all of those legacy
Because you have 4
instances
armor
just to make
types?
sure you're collecting all the appearances, that won't be the case anymore in War Within. You'll just be able to run it with 1 character.
Boom. This is a big thing, by the way. Like, a lot of people, especially me, like, the World of Warcraft is a sandbox. It's a big roller coaster. It's a theme park, and you can collect mounts and appearances and stuff like that. And the fact that you have to go into a dungeon with, for example, let's say I go in with a priest, and I get like sword drops and plate armor and leather and everything else, together with my priest cloth and staves that I can actually use at my priest. But all that other stuff is, even though I collected it and I looted it, does not get added to my account because I'm playing a priest right now and I can only use a staff and one hand, and like there's just so much wasted. And now when you go into a legacy raid or legacy dungeon and you farm out the bosses, everything that drops, even when you have those add-ons that tells you whether or not you have those appearances collected on your account on other characters that can actually use those appearances, like you're looking at them saying, oh, I didn't collect that appearance. Well, okay, so now I can just sell it because, I can't trade it to other characters on my account to get it or anything like that. I can just sell it, and then I have to go in with that other character that can actually use those and hope I get the same drop again. So doing this means that we can go into content and actually get what we want. And if I want to collect transmog for my warrior, I can go in with my priest. Doesn't matter. I can just go in and I can collect it. It is a big change to how transmog works in the World of Warcraft. Transmogging has become a big thing over the years. Like, started out without, being able to transmog, but then they said, oh, you know what, let's add that in, and then you can start collecting transmogs and stuff like that. And now we're getting to a point where everything becomes at the highest level of player friendliness that it can be inside this game, because reputation becomes account-wide, resources he mentioned became account-wide, hopefully. Transmog for legacy content, that is like a big win that I never thought was going to happen. I said to my wife a week ago when I went into one of the raids and I collected transmog and it said, you have not collected this, but I was going in on my male character and this was a plate transmog or a leather or whatever. And I said to her, it sucks so hard because I don't have it, and it says with my add-on I don't have it collected. Now I'm going to have to go with my leather character to get this transmog. And I don't want to do that because it's a waste of time. I don't want to do this raid 1,000 times on different characters that can use those transmogs in order to like get everything from this raid. And this is going to solve it. So big win. A huge win.
Holly mentioned this already, but this is obviously one that people are looking forward to. All of our reputations as well as renown in the War Within will be shared across your entire account.
And just to mention it, he said in the War Within will be account-wide. So all reputations are probably not going to become account-wide. And of course, that is probably because of technical limitations. The fact that like the old system isn't built up for account-wide reputation. They would have to go in and somehow magically try and make it so that the highest reputation on any of your characters in your account counts as like the reputation, and it becomes like this weird thing. And what if it goes in and breaks something in an older expansion or something because the rep isn't built up to you instantly jumping from 0 to like 10, whatever. So this right here, it is probably going to be just from like future expansions, but it's a big win either way because I can actually go into the next expansion and not have to worry about not being able to unlock things. I really want to unlock Tuskar customizations, but I haven't done so yet in Dragonflight. Why? Because I play many characters, so I have to start over every time. And yes, you can speed it up. It's kind of alt friendly, but not really though. This right here is 110% alt friendly. Reputation is account wide, and you don't have to do anything on one character once you start out an expansion. Oh, and then you grinded the reputation on that one character for everything. So now if you want to play an alt character, you have to feel like you're basically flushing everything out into the toilet because that other character has all the progress on it. So this is super good. Oh yeah.
Last but not least, let's talk about hero talents. So here's a quick mock-up of what the UI will look like that I think really helps explain how these integrate into our current talent trees. But really quick, let's take a look at how this will work. So there will be 3 new hero talent trees per class, and 2 will be available per specialization that you can freely choose and swap between. And also, this is another evergreen feature. This is a system that we think is going to provide a new vector of choice and customization for you and all of your classes, as well as create opportunities for us to really dig into some of those core class fantasies that are so amazing. So hero talents will introduce these new, small, self-contained talent trees like you just saw in the UI.
Something I probably skipped in this video. Holly went into the stage and talked about this briefly and said, for example, if you play a hunter and you want to go like the Dark Ranger direction, you can do that inside your hero talent tree. So basically what I think this is because, they talk a bit about it here, but one thing they don't mention is that in the World of Warcraft, we kind of have characters throughout the World of Warcraft, for example, Dark Rangers. And even though we have like the option to, create a Night Elf and customize their appearance to look like Dark Rangers, they're not really Dark Rangers, are they? Because they don't have the talents of a Dark Ranger. Their spells look completely identical to a regular hunter. There's no difference there. But if you go into hero talents, you can kind of go in a more iconic hero direction. So you know how like you have the main characters like Malfurion and Tyrande and Dark Rangers like Sylvanas and other famous characters. You can kind of like go in that direction of becoming one of them using hero talents. So like instead of becoming, like a hero class, you could play a Death Knight, you can actually take a regular class like a warrior and go in the direction of becoming a hero class.
And the way I like to think about it is like currently we have
just
2
screamed
types
into
of
the
talent
microphone.
points, right? We have class talent points and
There we go.
specialization talent points. And now in the War Within, there'll be a
I
third
think I
type
turned it
called
down.
hero talent points. So let's look at a quick example, which hopefully explains it a little bit more. This is a warrior, as you can see. These are the 3 hero talent trees that they'll have available: Mountain Thane, Colossus, and Slayer. And as you can see in the top left, we have Protection, who will be able to choose between Mountain Thane and Colossus. Up on the right, you'll see...
They're basically creating a bunch of subclasses. Not subclasses, sub-hero classes, which is amazing. So you can go like and say, you know what? I like to do Fury, but I also want to have more armor. So I want to go and create something that's like a hybrid between a Protection warrior and a Fury warrior. Or I want to go and become an Arms because they have so many really awesome utility for PvP. But I also love the fast and furious playstyle of a Fury warrior. Oh, let's become a Slayer. This is really awesome.
Fury, yep, that's right. Mountain Thane and Slayer are their options. And down at the bottom, Colossus and Slayer are their options. So this is how the majority of our classes are going to look in the War Within. The exception, of course, being Druids and Demon Hunters, who are a bit special, so theirs will look a little different. So let's take a look at how you'll unlock the system, as well as how it'll feel playing through as you're leveling through the War Within. So the system will automatically unlock at level 71, and it'll just kind of appear in your UI. You'll earn 1 talent point per level as you level from 71 to 80. And there are 10 talent points in total, with several choice nodes along the way.
Can I just say like one thing here? Well, I can, because I'm making the video and no one can stop me. Ha ha ha. When they do this, I really hope that they're really creating something really nice here. Like they're creating hero talents for making hybrid classes between like hybrid specs or something, which is something I really loved about Classic, because you could just kind of like say, oh, well, we have Protection warrior spells, Fury warrior spells, and Arms warrior spells. Okay, I'll buy some Protection spells and some Fury spells, and then you can create like a hybrid between. It's not like you're swapping between specs, right? Not in that kind of like retail sense. So doing this allow for us to kind of like combine the specs is what I'm hearing. Again, I'm not 100% understanding the hero talents, but I really hope that it means that we can start creating these very unique like combinations of specs. So we don't have like one spec that is 100% a Fury warrior, you know. So you can kind of like start incorporating some of the spells from other specs that are really impactful to your gameplay. So you're mainly a Fury warrior, but you can also become partially a Protection warrior. So like that's gonna be amazing if that's the thing. Imagine a evoker that can also become partially a like you're a Devastation evoker. I'm meaning evoker right now and don't remember the name. But you can also partially become a what do you call it? The new one, Augmentation. Like that would be incredible, right?
So I like to think of this as being similar to like the Legion artifact, where as you were leveling and progressing, you were making some choices along the way, but ultimately you're going to unlock the whole tree. And also, I want to be very clear here. These are extremely low friction to swap between those choice nodes, as well as to swap between the different hero talent trees.
Awesome.
So, you know, this should be very analogous to your current talent trees and will follow all the same rules that you used to there. So, you know, at the start of a raid boss, you know, before Mythic Plus starts, before an arena match kicks off.
Yeah, so you don't have to be in a
anywhere
capital city to swap between them.
And
You just
to wrap
swap.
us up, I wanted to show off a really quick video of what hero talents look like in action.
Oh, a feral
So
druid
this is
mixed
a
with a
warrior,
guardian
as you can see,
druid.
pop an
Oh,
avatar,
that would be
jumping
amazing.
in. And this next one is that same warrior with the Mountain Thane talent tree. As you can see, Stormbolt hits multiple targets. There's a couple of cool new V effects and a lot of other cool stuff going in action. So this is a warrior, as you can see, pop an avatar, jumping in. And this next one is that same warrior with the Mountain Thane talent tree. As you can see, Stormbolt
Okay, so Mountain Thane. If we just go back 1 second. So that's a Fury warrior mixed with Protection warrior. And then you get Mountain Thane. So this is basically a Fury warrior with a lot better defensives. That's amazing.
This next one is that same warrior with the Mountain Thane talent tree. As you can see, Stormbolt hits multiple targets. There's
It's a
couple
Fury
cool
warrior
V
with a
effects
shield.
and a lot of other cool stuff going on there as well. I heard some oohs.
I didn't realize that up
Artifacts
until
will be
now. He has
happy.
a shield. But he's still a Fury
That
Warrior.
about wraps
That's
us up
so
for
cool.
our What's Next panel. We hope you really liked what you saw here, and if you'd like to know more, please join us tomorrow at the Deep Dive panel at noon, where Ian will walk you through some of what you saw today in more
At
detail.
noon. I think they're actually live right now
As-
then. Like noon is like in the US right now. So or at least maybe like in 45 minutes. So basically like I'm just like lost for words. This is incredible. I love the changes. I love the fact that we're going to get hero classes. I love the fact that they're unlocking all the transmogs and everything. It's just so good. Everything like it's what I've always dreamed of. So like this is just like this is perfect, and this is why I pre-ordered the Epic Edition. This is the direction that WoW needs to continue in, and this is just how they're going to get the players back again. Like everything became so bloated, not content-wise. I know Aspen talks a lot about that, but I actually don't think that's an issue. I love the fact that we have a lot of content in the game. Aspen wants to completely reset the world and just start over. I would hate for that to happen. But like, just doing like go back a little bit, dial it down, get more grounded, work on the systems, make the players happy by making everything account wide. And when you farm all transmogs, share across the entire account, so you don't have to be a plate character to farm plate transmog in legacy dungeons. You can just be whatever character and you get everything that you collect. That is just how things needs to be. So yeah, this is what I would say, like a 10 out of 10 BlizzCon conference. The story isn't it's kind of the same thing as Dragonflight. Like it's not Shadowlands or Legion, the expansion trailer. It's not like super, super, super over the top. And, you feel like, oh my God, I got a pre-order just because of the story, It's the core base of what the World of Warcraft needs to be in order to become like the perfect game. That is what is being worked on here, and I like hands down they did such an amazing job at just saying the right things. We'll get to see once we get the game in our hands, but they said the right things, and that's the important part here. So respecting your player time and everything, that is just perfect. So with that, I hope that you all like the changes. I immediately pre-ordered the Epic Edition because this is above and beyond what I expected to hear. I haven't gotten the Epic Editions in the past. I got it once because my wife bought it for me, and I was super happy about it. But I bought the base game last time because I don't know, like WoW wasn't really developing in the right direction, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy the Epic Edition of something that I didn't quite enjoy to the full extent that what I thought it should be. And this right here is just gonna change how I play the game. I will finally get reputations farmed out. Renown they're called now. I will finally get everything account wide. Alcoholics like me embrace it. Like it's rejoice. It's such a good thing. So yeah, what are your thoughts on all this? I thought it was amazing. I can't wait for this expansion to come out, mainly because of all the system changes, and I hope to see you guys next time.